Welcome to the Dead Man Walking podcast. I am your host, Repeatedly Dead Fred, author of the medical trauma memoir, The Summer I Died 20 Times. Oh, it's right there. Which way is it? It's up there. So, which is what actually happened to me. And I did die 20 times. And my friend Deanna gave me the title, Repeatedly Dead Fred. So today, on this episode, we are going to do a double header. We're going to talk about a book that's just coming out and some adversity that was overcome by the author. So, oh my gosh, Rahti
Rahti.
Gorfien,
Rahti.
one podcast, I'd like to get it correct. My guests have the most interesting names. So, Rahti Gorfien, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Very happy to be here.
Thank you. So why don't we just get started with your very unique name?
Well, when I was a stand-up comedian, I had previously lived in an ashram for a few years. An ashram is, I like to think of it as a Hindu kibbutz. It's a spiritual community. And after one bout of overcoming adversity, I moved into one because as a nice Jewish girl, you can't hide thee to a nunnery. So, I moved to the shram, and we used to call ourselves Hindus, those of us, I suppose Buju, Hindu, I like to think of myself as a pagan Jewess, one of the ones that would have been smote dancing around the golden cow, most likely. Anyway,
not likely. Okay.
I don't
remember you. I don't remember you telling me you were a stand-up.
I was for 6 years. Yeah, and people would ask, "Rahti, beautiful name. What does it mean?" And I would say, "Larry." Actually, Rahti is a beautiful name that the yogi type person where I was in an ashram gave me, and means a lot of things. Rahti was the consort of Kama, who in the Mahabharata was, I believe, the Indian version of Cupid. So Rahti was considered the goddess of carnal love.
Ooh.
And it also means
You're
desire, which goes well. I'm a lusty soul, my friend. Oh, I've had my time in my day. She all of a sudden became a pirate. But yeah.
I was just thinking that.
It also means intense attachment to the Lord.
And
I don't think that, I don't know that carnal love and desire is necessarily separate from that. So
I'm pretty sure God invented, urges and carnal love. That's so, except for Adam and Eve.
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think next week I'm interviewing a guy named Mark Breslin, who created the Yuck Yucks comedy chain.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Yeah. If I was still doing stand-up, I'd say, "Oh, can you introduce me?" But I'm not actually doing stand-up anymore.
Well,
it is how I met my husband, though. Stand-up is responsible for my marriage.
Oh, interesting. Did he heckle you and then you put him in his place?
That would have been perfect, right? No, I fell in love with him as he was performing.
Oh, does he still perform?
Yeah, he has actually gone back. Well, always for me, but he's gone back to it after many years. We both did it professionally. He did it professionally for like 15 years. I did it for 6 professionally. And we would tour together. And, we kind of spun off at the end of the 80s. The landscape changed with Comedy Central and, people just, being able to just watch comics on TV. And it's also a very hard business, as you can imagine.
Yeah. So maybe we should do another episode with both of you on, and you can do your like Lucy and Desi routine.
Oh, he'd love that. Actually, I have a very funny story about that, but we'll save it for the other episode.
Okay. Sounds good. I mean, I love doing these heavier episodes where people talk about overcoming adversity. And
Yeah.
I think those are all stories that have to come out. But
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to do something a little lighter. Get
Well,
that balance.
also, I believe humor has everything to do with overcoming adversity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's no accident, and I'm not the first to say this. In fact, I think on Bill Maher, he had a comedy couple on Key and Peele, and his wife, who
Oh, yeah.
happens to be Jewish. I don't know if you saw that,
I
but
did
I
see that.
mean, yeah, there's a reason there are a lot of Jews in comedy.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool. It's a way to survive.
Yeah, I went to buy their book and it was like 40 odd dollars. And I think, ooh, that was a little steep.
Yeah, books cost a lot of money. I'm appalled at what they're charging for it. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
ridiculous. But
Okay.
I'll tell people how to get it a little cheaper towards the end of the podcast. But yeah.
Ooh, one sec. Rumi just came home and I forgot to tell her I was recording.
Oh, that's okay. I
Yeah.
get it. I just let my son know also. Yeah, my book is exorbitant in my opinion, and
Mm-hmm. But
hey, that
well
might be a
worth
good
it.
segue. Yes, damn it, it's well worth.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, speaking of your book,
Yeah,
does it have a title?
it's called The 5 Emotions That Stop Success in Coaches, Clients, and Creatives Overcoming Personal Obstacles of the Mind. In other words,
Oh,
Rutledge tried to shove every keyword in the title. I just like to call it The 5 Emotions That Stop Success. Full
okay.
stop. Yeah,
There's a
that's what I.
lot of C's in that title.
Yeah, there is, aren't I like alliteration though.
Mm-hmm.
Coaches, clients, and creatives, and my company is Creative Calling Coaching LLC. So it kind of works.
You need to get a C in your name.
I used to. I'm going to tell you, that's so funny you say that. I gotta laugh because, Rati is the name that I embody. That feels like my name.
Mm-hmm.
However, the name my parents gave me was Claudette.
Wow.
So I had a C in my name, darn it.
I
However, I never really connected to it very much, and there was a lot of overcoming of trauma coming out of my
mhm.
childhood. So Rati was a fresh start for me.
Yeah. Well, in the Talmud, there's a concept: change your location, change your muzzle, your life, your luck, your fate.
Mm-hmm.
So if things aren't going
Mm-hmm.
for you in a certain place, that's obviously not the place for you.
Interesting.
And
Huh.
we also do that with names. We
Uh-huh.
we allow people to change their names to get them a name more in sync with what their vibe should be.
Well, I
And
just intuited that then, I guess, because I'm
mhm,
not, I wasn't raised very religiously, but there are certain things I resonate with, even unconsciously, in terms of the
mhm.
tradition. It's funny.
Okay, so tell us a little bit more about this book with the incredibly short title.
Well, spoiler alert, the 5 emotions that I dive into in the book are shame, envy, grandiosity, boredom, and fear. Not in exactly that order. I have found through the course of my life, in the course of my work as a coach, that those categories of emotion, shame, grandiosity, envy, boredom, and fear, those those mindsets are essentially what shut people down and cause them to be afraid of being seen.
I can honestly say I have never identified grandiosity and boredom as emotions. So that's pretty interesting.
They are. They're in their minds, emotions. They're sort of like, there's mood and then there's emotion. But I think they're kind of the same, except that mood, I guess you could say, is like the wallpaper. Emotion is like the furniture in the room.
Mhm.
And so, yes, a backdrop of grandiosity going on in your subconscious or boredom happening are
Mm.
definitely going to influence you a good deal in
Mhm.
the choices you make creatively, professionally, etc.
Okay, so I guess the standard question here, if I was a professional interviewer and we were on, Good Morning America or whatever,
Mm.
would be, well, what inspired you and why now?
Well, I felt I finally had something to say.
Mhm.
For one thing, I got to that point in my life where, yeah, I have something to say. I this tattoo, people get curious. I have a tattoo on my chest. And I had it put there after I finally got through the other side of menopause. It's a
Mhm.
demarcation
Okay.
between the hormone driven insanity and roller coaster of that first part of my life, hormone, emotion, spirit, body, all connected, I think, and the wisdom I've gained by overcoming so many things in my life.
Mhm.
Uh, so, fast forward, there was one instance of overcoming that resulted in some suicidal ideation that caused me to enter psychoanalysis for 15 years.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. Coming out of that, I had managed to build a coaching practice, and I had been invited to be a peer reviewer of a colleague's book for Routledge, the publisher, Routledge. And they invited all their peer reviewers to submit proposals for books that they might write, which I did. I also did chapters in a couple of anthologies of books that were published at Routledge. Both anthologies were by Eric Maisel, who, to my mind, is, along with Julia Cameron, the foremost creativity coach uh, on the planet. He and Julia Cameron, it's so funny because she's real woo woo, real God oriented, and Eric is an atheist. And
Mhm.
yet they meet, and yet they meet right in the middle in terms of what the artist does and what keeps an artist going, which is meaning and making meaning. So I was honored to do a couple chapters in a couple of his books. And so I had a relationship with Routledge. I worked very hard on the proposal for this book, the concept of which I think probably was a back and forth through my with my therapist thinking, well, how can I distill what I have to say? And it came down to those 5 emotions
Cool.
and the experiences as a coach I have with creative professionals who struggle with neurodiversity like ADHD or, sometimes some of my clients are on the spectrum, or some of them are just really overwhelmed or depressed. What they have in common, though, is they are creative. They have songs in them that they don't want to have die inside them. So I help
Mhm.
them get those songs, that get those meanings into the world.
Mhm. I'm fairly neurodiverse, not
Mhm,
ADHD, mostly from all the brain trauma I've had.
mhm.
So sometimes having a conversation with me can be pretty tricky.
Well, I'm right with you. I hear
Mhm.
you. And that's part of what I'm trained to do is to get on the ride with my clients
Mhm.
rather than assume I know where the conversation is supposed to go. And I'm usually learning along with them.
So, do you have any clients that um, people in the audience might know about that have, really written the song that matters to other people?
Well, I'm not going to out anybody because coaching, like therapy, is people choose whether to say I don't think a therapist would be saying who their clients are. It's up to the client
Mhm.
to say, well, I had this fantastic coach who helped me. And many times they won't name us, whether we're
Mhm.
therapists or coaches, because we are like their secret weapon in their back pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't answer that really.
Okay. But you have a few,
Uh-huh.
is what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, the people in my book, the case studies in my book are composites. They're
Mm-hmm.
composites of different clients.
Hmm. I never thought to make the people in my book composites. I just gave them all strange names that sort of
Well, that
described them a little
too.
bit.
That too. I mean, there are one or two that really are pretty straight up, and for them, I just change profession and gender and name. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, if someone picks up your book with the incredibly short title,
Yeah.
what do you think they can glean out of this? How is it going to change their life? Do they have to be somebody who's very ADHD, neurodiverse, or creative?
I don't think
Or
so.
this can
I
just
think
give anybody some tools?
it's the human condition.
Mm-hmm.
We constantly mistake how we feel for who we are, which is a trap. And it's helpful and it's very useful to really know what category of emotion is running the show
Mm-hmm.
so that you can separate from it and make the calls from your true internal wisdom. There's an
Mm-hmm.
exercise that recurs in the book to that effect. I call it the mezzanine exercise. And it came about during my journey of psychoanalysis when I had a dream. And in the dream, I was in a huge, beautiful Broadway theater, with a lot of red velvet, and
Mm-hmm.
big crystal chandelier, and whatever it is, velour velvet seat. And I was in the mezzanine, which is it's the balcony, basically the first
Mm-hmm.
balcony. And I was looking down at the stage, and I was on the stage and I was in what I was watching on the stage was a scene from my childhood, a traumatic incident from my childhood where I was being pulled by my hair. And
Mm-hmm.
as I sat in the mezzanine watching it, I felt no fear. I don't remember exactly what I felt. I just was observing. And I told him this dream, to which he exclaimed, "That's it. You are the woman in the mezzanine." We all have that person in the mezzanine. And the challenge, and I think, cultivating mental command and control over our emotions has everything to do with that witness consciousness. Of course, this dovetails with all the traditions of meditation, etc. You know, so I give people this meditation in the book. Instructions for therapists or coaches to lead people through it so that they can examine the moments in their life where maybe they weren't quite in control of what was going on, which resulted in a lot of debilitating shame or fear, right? Uh, or grandiosity, even.
Mm-hmm.
Grandiosity is an interesting one. It has, to me, that it has a lot to do with, well, certainly believing your reviews if you get good reviews. You
Mm-hmm.
can't really believe any of your reviews because nobody's really seeing exactly what it is you're trying to say or do. However, I think there's an element of grandiosity. It's like a bubble that as soon as it gets popped, you just do a shame spiral out of.
Mm-hmm.
What grandiosity does is it causes us to separate from others to protect ourselves out of this notion that nobody's going to get me. I'm too special. I'm too brilliant. So I'm just better off remaining a legend in my own mind. I'll just stay safe. That's grandiosity. Also, I think sometimes grandiosity can cause us to make choices out of a out of a place of getting a lot of accolades, and we see that all over the place with the Me Too movement. People, thinking they can do no wrong or whatever, and or thinking that they're going to be forgiven for anything because they're so great. So grandiosity is dangerous, very dangerous.
Sounds like it's closely related to narcissism.
Definitely. I think whether you're clinically narcissistic or not, it goes hand in hand with narcissism for sure.
Yeah. And anybody who's dealt with a narcissist, the best thing you can do is distance yourself from that person. There's no changing them. They can't admit they're wrong. And any difficulty they have in their life is your fault. So run away.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Romani. She is actually she's a psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm not sure what her credential is, who specializes in narcissism and the havoc that narcissism wreaks in people's lives as on the receiving end of it. And her podcast, I just going to give her a plug, Navigating Narcissism. You can find it on any podcast, but I mean, that has been a really good resource. I definitely refer to her in my book in that chapter, I believe, on narcissism.
Okay. Dr. Romani, you're welcome to come on my podcast too.
There you go. You need to, when once we have done this and it's out in the world, I hope you share this with her because I'd like to go on her podcast too.
Does she know that you've written about her in your book?
No, not yet. No, she doesn't.
Oh, you have to let her know.
I guess so. I guess that would be smart, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Okay, so I just got the 10-minute warning sign.
Oh, all right.
Okay. So tell us about your one-on-one coaching and what you can do for people.
So that is the backbone of my practice. There are other elements to it. When I do one-on-one coaching, I take everyone through a mental fitness training called Positive Intelligence. Shirzad Chamine is the, I think, founder, creator, what have you, of that system, that operating system. And it's brilliant, and it works, I think, well for neurodivergent people or people who feel pulled in 50 directions, because it's like meditation light, meditation on your feet. Through embodiment, things like, if you rub two fingers together with great attention and pay attention to that sensation, you're going to find yourself feeling much calmer because it's disrupting whatever pattern of thought, whatever, rumination might be going on. So I take people through that training because when I coach people, it is a lot about strategy so that I'm helping people live into the life they want to create. We can come up with all the strategy in the world, all the actions in the world, but if you don't have control over your mind, over your feelings, then you're not going to do any of it. So I really, that's an kind of an underpinning of my coaching is before that, everybody, I would get it, and I would have everyone meditate. The people who are successful in my practice, I would say, as private clients, have all had their hearts broken in one way or another. And they take responsibility, not in a blame the victim kind of way, but they take responsibility for their lives enough to know that it's up to them to change it and to make what they want happen. They just need a Sherpa. They need a road buddy and a driving instructor. So that's essentially the work I do with my clients. We identify where they want to go, and together we find the easiest and most pleasurable way to get there. And I don't know if it's too soon, but I'm sure you'll have in the notes ways to contact me, or fill out an intake for a strategy session or something. Or no,
no, you're going to tell everybody right now.
Oh, I'm going to tell people. Oh, okay. Oh, gee, well, I don't have that URL memorized, but if you go to creativecallingcoaching.com, you will find all things Coach Rahti. You'll find you'll find a link to schedule a strategy session. Also, I have another URL for the book specifically, which is the5emotions.com. Pretty easy to remember, the5emotions.com. And
you spelled out, or five is the number?
Good question. All the words all spelled out, the5emotions.com. And if you buy the book through there, you'll get a 20% discount.
Oh my gosh.
You got to go through my website. Not only that, but you will also get a free gift from me, which is actually a program I used to charge people for. It was a group program, and it is a distillation of that into a workbook called the Passion to Profit Workbook that takes you from the dream state of goal setting all the way through to fulfillment, to actually being in process with taking actions and making it happen. So I think they're nice companions to each other, the book and the workbook, the Passion to Profit.
And there's more alliteration there. Thrown in for
I
free.
love alliteration. I guess I don't know. I think it's a very creative. Creatives love alliteration.
For sure. Yeah. So there was another question I was going to ask you, and it went, so more of I liked your example of rubbing your fingers together.
Yeah.
And vibing into the feeling and sensation.
Yes.
And using it as a disruptor. Yes. As opposed to something like tapping with his, the rubber band system where you put
I've heard
rubber bands of different thicknesses around your wrist, and you
interesting. Oh wow, that's violent. That's
I don't think
that sounds violent.
I don't think you're supposed to really do it that hard, but a lot of people end up doing it that hard.
And what if the rubber band snaps and you no longer have a rubber band?
I know, and
then you go down some maze of negative thinking, and there's no rubber band.
And then there's a rubber band shortage at all the dollar type stores.
Exactly. This is, and then you're walking around with your prompts. You have your body is your rubber band. It's your prompt. I cannot take credit for the two fingers rubbing together. That's Shirzad Shamin. But there are so many variations of that. And, there are different length PQ sessions or mini meditations you can do. Right now I'm doing it with you. Basically what I'm doing is I'm really focusing on your face and noticing things about it that I no, I'm noticing things about it that I hadn't noticed before. It's keeping me from planning my next thing that I'm going to say. It's allowing me to just be here.
Oh, okay. That's this interesting and flattering and scary at the same time.
You got a beautiful punam, darling. It's all love. It's pure love.
Thank you. I try and radiate that. I really do.
Yeah, I get that.
To be honest though, like podcasts are exhausting for me because I have resting bitch face. So it's not my natural affinity to smile. So I really have to work hard to smile. And that takes a lot. These little face muscles, they suck up a lot of energy.
Yeah, but less than frowning, I'm told. But I don't know. That could be bullshit. I don't know. However, you don't
swear on here.
Oh no! Is that right? Are you going to be able to bleep that out?
Oh, I'm going to get demonetized.
Oh no! Oh, I hope you can bleep it out. Do you have someone do a little editing? I apologize. I
I'll
talk
just
like
put
a
a
sailor.
Band-Aid over your face
Yeah. Okay.
when that part comes.
Yeah. That was nothing. But we digress, folks. If you work with me, you have to understand, if you're easily offended by cursing, we'll work through it. I'm not saying that everyone should swear like a sailor. It's probably better that I don't. I should have intuited otherwise. However,
But
you're easy to make smile, so I don't know why you find it hard to smile.
just I think it's from having a stroke when I was young. So
Mm.
um
Hmm.
I forgot to mention that you grew up as a dock worker in Brooklyn, and that's where you get your vocabulary from.
Yeah, I may as well have. Yep. Well, I may also maybe because my father was a Marine, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think he controlled himself better though because of his Marine training. It was, situational, but when he was not needing to control, and he also had PTSD. He was a Marine
Mm-hmm.
with PTSD, so yeah, there was a lot of swearing.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
You know, all of my uncles fought in the Second World War,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, I didn't know them as well because they were dispersed across the country. But I imagine they had some pretty colorful uh, outbursts. Oh, I just realized we're less than a minute, so I need to wrap up.
Okay. It's been so
So,
fun.
Rahti Gorfien, thank you so much. This has been wonderful, despite your swearing at me. And I hope we can do a follow-up episode with you and your hubby,
Oh,
and do
absolutely.
some light stuff.
That'll
And
be
to you in the
fun.
audience who have tuned in, thank you. Please like, subscribe, share, do all those good things that help us advance our channel and spread these rays of brightness to other people in the world who need it. Thank you all, and have a wonderful week. Bye-bye. If we